So you started your fat loss phase, your clothes are fitting better, your muscles are more defined, but when you step on the scale, nothing. What gives? Stick around, I'll break down 5 reasons why this is happening and if you should be concerned. So the first and more obvious reason is you're getting some recomp here, you're losing fat, but you're also building muscle. But how likely this is depends on your experience level. If you're someone who is very inexperienced, say you've never trained before in your life, and you start lifting weights, that training response is powerful. The most extreme example I've seen is one of my clients way back in the day. He literally lost 5 inches off of waist without losing a single pound on the scale. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. But the point is, if you're building muscle and losing fat, the scale might not change, but you're going to look better. But the more experience you get, the less likely this is to be true. Like for someone like myself who's been training for almost 17 years consistently, I'm not going to be building loads of muscle, especially in a calorie deficit. It's just not going to happen. But it can happen in some other scenarios, like if you got on steroids. No, I'm not suggesting you should do that. If you had a layoff from training, like you got injured or something like that, that can definitely make it happen. In fact, I had this example of myself where I had to have some eye surgery and they told me that I could not touch a weight at all, even light weights, for at least 12 weeks. And you can see I was able to maintain my weight during those 12 weeks, but my body composition looked very different. And the same thing happened in reverse, where now my body comp was improving, but weight wasn't really changing. The second thing can be at the beginning of your cutting phase, you probably get more excited about things. You start training with more intensity. You're also picking up your activity levels. You're probably doing more cardio, more walking. And what this does is it creates more inflammation in your body. You're probably really sore. A lot of times you start eating more hard to digest food because they're more filling, but now that creates some inflammation in the gut. So you have all this different inflammation between your gut and your muscles that are causing the scale to spike. But because you're losing body fat while you're seeing that inflammation come up, you're not really seeing much of a change. And then over the course of a handful of weeks, eventually things start moving, or you could be making the mistake of doing a weekly weigh-in. Because remember, your weight fluctuates on a daily basis up to several pounds literally, but it has nothing to do with body fat. That's all water weight. Things like sleep and stress and sodium intake and training inflammation and how much food is digested in your system, how many fluids you drank. Like there's so many reasons. And if you're only taking one snapshot in time, you could be abnormally high or low one week, and then even the opposite. It could even show that you're gaining weight because you're extra inflamed the day you weigh yourself. So what you want to do instead is make sure you weigh yourself every single day and then take an average for the week. And I really recommend that you weigh yourself first thing in the morning, after going to the bathroom, and before eating or drinking anything, because that's going to be the most consistent time of the day. If you miss that, just skip it. And then you can compare that weekly average week by week. And that's not perfect, but it is a much more accurate representation of what's actually happening. It can absolutely turn what would have been a stall or even a gain into a loss because you're not comparing just one snapshot in time. The third reason would be if you go on creatine, which I am recommending it. It is a fantastic supplement. It's one of the only tried and true supplements that's backed by literally hundreds of studies at this point that shows its effectiveness and muscle size, strength, work capacity in the gym, even cognitive benefits. But how it works is it increases your creatine phosphate and water in your muscles, which over the course of maybe 3 to 4 weeks, you are going to see a gradual increase in the scale because of this. But say for instance, that's causing like a half a pound to a pound increase on the scale, but you're also losing like a pound on the scale every single week. Well, now your weight's not changing, but it can definitely change your body composition, especially when you get leaner. In fact, I did a video a long time ago about recomp, and I'm not saying that creatine was the only thing that I changed, but I was on a long break from it for no good reason, came back on it, also made some other tweaks, and I saw some really nice recomp during that time. So my body looked better, but the scale weight was almost the same. I'll put that video in the description if you want to check it out after this video. Now, the fourth reason would be if you're someone who's leaner, the changes that are going to happen visually when you're really lean are going to be much more pronounced than they are in the beginning stages when you have more weight to lose. This was actually what I talked about in a different video, very similar to this, where I talked about why you're losing weight, but not looking leaner. When the beginning stages, when you have more body fat to lose, every pound you lose is a very small percentage of your total overall weight. Well, when you get much leaner, while weight loss will slow down significantly, every pound makes up a much larger percentage of your total weight. So the changes become much more pronounced and everything starts to pop more and everything. So you might not see big changes in the scale, but your body comp changes can improve drastically. Now, the fifth reason isn't even a reason at all. I'll explain what I mean by that. So maybe you've heard about the whoosh effect before. And what happens here is it's not uncommon to see your weight not really move much at all. Then all of a sudden one day you see this big drop on the scale, the whoosh. And the theory behind this was that when you lose fat from your fat cells, water ends up coming into the fat cell in place of that, and then eventually that drains and causes this whoosh. Now, there's absolutely no evidence to suggest this is true, but that doesn't mean it's not true that you may go long periods of time without seeing any weight loss, and then all of a sudden, boom, you will. Now, don't go anywhere, because while I gave you 5 reasons why this happens. This next part is by far and away the most important message of this video, and that's that at the end of the day, be okay with it. So many people get so caught up in that scale number, and they'll even be upset about it. Like, my clothes are fitting much looser, I see big changes in the pictures, but they just get down about it and feel like, I'm so frustrated, I'm not losing any weight, things aren't working. It's like, yeah, they are. You're seeing changes, right? At the end of the day, you're not trying to change a number on the scale. You're trying to change your body. I'm not saying don't pay attention to it. It is a tool that you should pay attention to, but it's just one tool, not the be all end all. So you want to make sure you're looking at pictures from the side, back, and front, because you can lose fat from anywhere. You want to make sure you're taking measurements, especially around your belly button. You want to pay attention to how your clothes are fitting. If you see changes happening in any of these areas on a week by week basis, then change is happening. And a lot of people don't realize this, but you probably won't see change in all those things in just 1 week. Most of the time, it's 1 or 2 of those 4 things. So if weight's moving, but measurements aren't, great, change is happening. If measurements are moving, but weight isn't, great, change is happening. Keep going. Now, I mentioned earlier that creatine can be a big help, and it absolutely can. So what I want you to do is check out this video, and it's going to cover everything you need to know about creatine. So check that out next, and I'll see you in that other video.